Hi, so I'm Asraa. I'm the digital editor of the Chicago Reporter. We're an investigative news organization focused on race, poverty, and income inequality. Been around since 1972, small team, 6 staffers. Other than the editor and publisher, all of us are editorial, so none of us are, there's no one person solely focused on development or fundraising. 2018 was the first time we were in Newsmatch, and it basically equipped us to be able to do an individual giving campaign without the benefit or the expertise of having a development person on staff, which was always something I kind of saw as a barrier. Like, how can we get into this space without being staffed that way? It really was like a crash course in the best practices. One of the really helpful aspects was they had these, as I'm sure all of you are familiar, these incentives and bonuses built in that got us thinking about different ways to target different types of donors. So there's small donors, there's large donors, there's lapsed donors, there's maybe people that open all your emails but never made a contribution. And I think just the way Newsmatch was structured, it kind of got us thinking about making tailored asks instead of a one-size-fits-all ask, which ended up being really effective. The other aha moment for me was the emphasis on email. I always thought of fundraising as a big social media push. Like, we've all seen the Giving Tuesday hashtag flood our news feed every year. But Jason and Christina were always emphasizing that you're probably going to get more of a return on your efforts on email. And as a publisher, writing an email to a subscriber is basically the most low-cost, low-production thing you could possibly do. So we were really blown away that just a handful of emails sent over 3 weeks ended up yielding us more than $16,000 over the Newsmatch period. I think before I was in Newsmatch, I had a really different perception of what individual giving is all about. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this scene in season 3 of The Wire where Bobby Carcetti is running for mayor. He needs money, so he locks himself in a room and makes these like agonizing phone calls of like people that he's calling in favors to write big checks. And that's really what that was my mental image of individual giving, like miserable and cringeworthy and not something I'm equipped to do. Newsmatch really taught me that fundraising is actually very creative and very experimental. It's kind of like trying different things, seeing what sticks, tapping into your journalism skills, like with storytelling and narrative, kind of sharing who you are, and really taught me to approach donors and prospective donors as kind of as like an audience that we could deepen our relationship with. I think it was also an education for our audience that they can support us in this way. Because especially if you're not asking them to pay for the journalism per se, if you're not a subscription model and you don't have a paywall, I think a lot of news consumers don't think of nonprofit news as something that they can involve in their charitable giving or as a means to engage in the issues that they're invested in. So I think it also taught our readers about our needs in a way that they hadn't been aware of before. So yeah, after ending 2018 on the high note of Newsmatch, I think cultivating donors became less of a job, less of a something that we should be doing or we want to be doing, and more of a mindset. I actually look forward to writing appeals because instead of like the one-way kind of we create content and you read it like a one-way street, the appeals have kind of become an opportunity for us to like bring our readers behind the curtain of what we do and tell them about our plans, our goals, our strategies, get their feedback on our ideas, get to know our team beyond just a byline. And it's really, we kind of see it as an opportunity to make our journalism community-driven, not just on the content or editorial side, but also on the operations side, by getting that buy-in from the audience we serve. I also really changed the way I think about metrics, because before Newsmatch, I always looked at open rate and click-through rate as like a percentage. And then I really started thinking of like the people behind those figures, like, okay, maybe we have a 15% open rate, for example. But after Newsmatch, I started thinking like, okay, that's like, let's say 1,200 people that consistently open our emails. And I bet that I could convince like some fraction of those people they're probably willing and able to pitch in to support our appeals. So it really kind of got me thinking about analytics and metrics in a more human-centered way rather than these like benchmarks that I have to reach. So since Newsmatch dropped, we've been doing a spring and summer appeal. We're kind of pursuing some ideas that got left on the table when we did Newsmatch the first time. And basically, we're just trying to get more comfortable with asking our readers to partner with us in this way. And we're kind of trying to equip ourselves to hopefully be in a good place to make the most out of Newsmatch this year. So thank you.